So the quadrilateral, I'm not going to ask you how many of you even know what it is, because to be honest, it's a newer invention of a word. So you could be a John Wesley scholar and not have heard of the quadrilateral yet, but we're going to learn what it is together. So basically, this is what the quadrilateral is. It's a way of critically thinking, beginning with Scripture and coming out with your own conclusion about it. John Wesley never believed that the church should have a creed. So there is no certain creed that is in our book of discipline. We acknowledge lots of creeds. We like the Apostles' Creed. We like that new creed of Canada. We like the back of your hymnal is filled with creeds. Look at it. Because John Wesley was like, I'm not going to tell everybody. It's not one size fits all. It's one Jesus who's lived out by all. That's a difference. So John Wesley was like, figure it out for yourself. However, being a United Methodist is not a lazy way to do your faith. It isn't a simple way to do your faith. So if you grew up a United Methodist and you decide, I'm never going to critically think, you're probably not going to get a lot out of Scripture, because John Wesley wants you to engage and wrestle with it. The more you engage and wrestle with it, the more you will love it. That's just how it works. So this is the quadrilateral, and it basically says there's a theology out there. Theology is just kind of what you think about God. And you come to your own theology as you critically think about things through the quadrilateral. So it's Scripture, tradition, experience, reason. And then you come up with something that you think. But it's a process. It goes over and over and over. So to me, it's like a tornado that starts at the bottom and then just continues to grow. And so your faith grows and becomes deeper and also stronger, because you're more assured that it's your faith that you're living out. Now, he also believed that we don't do this alone, because collective wisdom is better than individual wisdom. So we do this in a group. We allow people to think individually, bring it to the table, share, and then grow together. And that's what you do, but it's a constant process. So it's this spiral upward towards God, towards your perfection. So I want to tell you a little bit about John Wesley. He was born he lived in the 1700s. He was actually an Anglican clergyman. So he's an interesting guy. A lot of people think he started the Methodist Church. He did, but he never left the Anglican Church. He lived and he died an Anglican. And so the Anglican worship is very high church, right? Very high church. And then he, in addition to that, had like this Sunday school class or these class groups that met together. And so you always had this balance of pretty formal worship and also of thinking and using the quadrilateral and working together to try to be better people. So if you look at 1 hour worship, which is what we're being more and more forced into, where the children will be doing Sunday school and the adults will be in worship, if you need a little oomph to say, I don't think that's working, look at John Wesley, who expected everybody to go to formal worship and to do the classes. It wasn't either or. You didn't choose. So it was a commitment of time and a commitment experience that he wanted us to do. So the quadrilateral, the word quadrilateral was actually coined by this guy, Albert Outler. And he was a Methodist theologian and philosopher. He studied Wesley the deepest and the most. Before Outler, people just kind of read Wesley's sermons and kind of knew about him, whatever. But he started really looking deeply at Wesley and kind of codified what Wesley did. And he came up with this thing, and he said, he used a quadrilateral, was that Wesley looked at everything through different books. He was worried about the poor not having medical care. So he tried to advocate for their medical care. When the doctors of the time would not care for the poor, he went back to medical school, and he considered that part of his training, and then he became a medical doctor, and he invented lots of things. He has one of the first migraine machines that he built himself. He studied engineering, he studied medicine, he studied philosophy, he read secular books, he read religious books, and he thought all of these are ways that God speak. And so he listened in so many ways. But Outler said what he used was his Scripture, tradition, experience, and reason to make a thing. So once we got that from Outler, we were able to use the quadrilateral. So this is how I think we need to teach the quadrilateral to children. Before I get to that, I just want to tell you about a little exercise that I do with adults to help them understand the difference between one-size-fits-all theology and that you can trust people if you hold sacred space to come up with something, an experience with God, a thought about God, and that's okay. A lot of times when I work with groups, I do this little thing with the 23rd Psalm, because everybody knows the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You all could say it with me if we wanted to do the whole thing. And I simply, I do kind of a Lectio Divina thing where I say, here's a piece of paper, here's a crayon. I'm going to read this to you once. I want you to listen to it. The second time I read it, I want you to just meditate on a word. And the third time I read it, I want you to draw a picture of what this psalm is saying to you. I've done this with children, I've done it with teens, I've done it with adults. It works with everybody, and everybody draws a picture. And then I say, share your picture. Now, this is different from the way a lot of times we do Sunday school, where we sit down and we say, okay, let's read the 23rd Psalm. Okay, what's an activity we can do? Let's do a walk through the pasture. Let's make sheep. Let's make sheep. When I was in Brownies, we made sheep out of marshmallows and cloves. I will never forget it. It was my favorite activity, and I've made that thing a million times. And then we're like, hey, let's make a craft. Okay, let's have them draw a picture. Oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And then they leave, and they've never reflected on it. So, and then they leave, and everybody has made a sheep. And you focused on the thing that the sheep is guided by the shepherd. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that message that you're teaching children. It's just that when I do this activity with adults, I hear things like, and with children, the part of it that really spoke to me is that my cup overflows. I'm pregnant, and it's going really well, and I had a miscarriage, and so I really treasure this pregnancy. I hear people say, I'm in the darkness. I'm lonely. I don't have any friends at school. And at lunch, I literally eat lunch with my shepherd. I hear other people say, my life is too scattered. I need to lay down. I want my shepherd to order me to lay down. It's so much deeper when you let people think for themselves. And so that's why we want to use the quadrilateral, is we want to hear what the children are thinking, so that they can grow together. So that scripture, which we could all leave with all the children understanding that's said about a shepherd that loves its sheep, and there's nothing wrong with that interpretation. When you let children speak, there's always a person who says, well, I follow my good shepherd and it keeps me out of trouble and blah, blah, blah. But you also get to know each other. And then you've built real relationships and you've become authentic. And that's how you're going to grow closer as a community, is you're going to know each other.